Hey, listen, the distributions are required, so the education's going to also be required. Your required minimum distributions. If you miss it, there could be a penalty, so pay attention today, otherwise it's costly. All right, grab your favorite mug. It's time for coffee with your retirement coach. All right, welcome back to Coffee with Your Retirement Coach. Today, we're going to talk about required minimum distributions. It's not an option.
Not optional.
It's required. And the problem is people don't know about it, but you are still subject to it.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know. So, Nick, this is an important topic because, again, we can avoid penalties and costs. If we've got it on the radar, we can plan. So let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, Aaron, this is really, really important, especially since, this is probably one of the largest assets in middle America today.
Yep.
It's either IRAs or your home. Mm-hmm. It's typically one of those two things.
Right.
And so if you have IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, 457 plans, etc., then it's very likely you're going to face required minimum distributions, aka forced taxation.
Yes.
Okay. Because regardless if you need to take money out of these accounts or not, the government makes you take money out of these accounts. Okay.
Yep.
So it is, in my opinion, forced taxation, but required minimum distributions are so important for you to understand if you have one of those types of retirement accounts. Now, Aaron, there was one type of retirement account I left off.
Yes.
The Roth IRA. If you have a Roth IRA or Roth 401k, this is not pertinent to you
today.
There's
no tax obligation.
There's no required minimum distribution out of IRA or Roth IRAs and Roth 401ks.
Yes. Now, before you take that as gospel, remember you need to pay attention to 5-year rules. You need to look at the actual specifics of your Roth. But for purposes of today's conversation, not pertinent to what we're talking about.
Yeah. So, Aaron, so many people don't even know that this is a thing. You sign up for your employer work plan, Lockheed Martin, GE, Coca-Cola, Delta, etc., and you sign up for the 401k, and you've got a 401k. It's coming out of your paycheck. You're getting the employer match. Yeah. All you know is you are saving money on taxes. The money's growing tax deferred.
Yeah.
And one day, it's going to be a part of your retirement.
Right.
But no one ever told you about forced taxation.
Nick, I was on the phone in the last 2 weeks with a brilliant engineer. Was incredible to get to meet this guy over the phone, spend time with him. I'm really hoping that he comes in and potentially becomes a client because I was that impressed with his story. Now, what surprised me is as we go through discovery, we find out he has got a good-sized 401k that he'll be ready to roll that over into a traditional IRA here very soon. He's coming to the end of his career, and he's talking to me about ideas about I might consult, I might take a part-time gig, with the information that I've acquired over my, pretty fantastic career. I still have a lot to offer, just got a lot of things I want to do. Now, what he told me was, I don't know that I'm going to need to touch any of this. I might have a few things, might have some home renovations. And we know when people retire, it's basically kitchens, baths, and golf carts.
Yeah. So true.
But he said beyond that, I might not need to touch it. But I know I can pull retirement income from it. But that's one of the things that I want to get from this. But there is the chance that it will remain untouched.
Yeah.
Of course, then I said, you mean beyond your required distributions? I don't know what that is. I said, okay, so you've got a required beginning date that is attached to your work plan for you when you turn 73 years old. You're going to have to start taking distributions. He said, start from the beginning and give me the plan.
And this is a gentleman who's retired or about to retire.
He is about to retire, and he is within a few years, less than a few years, basically, of how it's going to fall out. Of if it goes into that rollover IRA, we're going to have to help him with required distributions very soon. And he had no idea that he was staring down the barrel on this. This is a brilliant man, successful in his field. I mean, a pillar in the community. and he has no idea.
You know, Aaron, that's a powerful story, and it's a real story.
Yeah.
I mean, because you might be extremely knowledgeable in your field. You could be an educator. You could be the engineer like you're talking about today. You could be a rocket scientist. You know about your field. I mean, you know, widget manufacturer, widget sales, etc. But to know about all of these rules with retirement accounts, it's not like it used to be, like in many of our clients' parents' generation, where you had a modest amount of savings, a home that was paid for, and you had a pension and Social Security. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
And now you've got these retirement accounts that have all these rules, and you got to know the rules, because not knowing could cost you.
Right.
And so let's go to the basics for a second, okay? So with required minimum distributions, the way that these are calculated is your year-end balance, okay, year-end balance of all of your collective IRAs, 401ks, etc. And I'm going to put a little asterisk. If you're still working and you have a 401k, you don't own the company, there could be an exclusion there.
Right.
Outside of that small exception, you've got to add all those balances up, the December 31st value, and then the IRS. So you can go to irs.gov, you can find your mortality table, and there's a factor that you have to plug in based on that balance. It'll tell you how much you have to take out that first year.
Right.
Okay. So you have to factor in now something called RBD, required beginning date.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is the age that you have to start taking. It's non-negotiable. You have to.
Yeah.
Okay. And so for most of our listeners today, that age would be 73.
Right.
Now, a few years from now, it does bump to age 75.
Yes.
But for right now, it's age 73. So that's your required beginning date. So within that calendar year, you have to take your first required minimum distribution.
And this is important because the required beginning date has been as young as 70 and a half. So you need to know where you are entering in this for not only the awareness of it, but being able to plan up to it. So don't just assume. Let's make sure we know, hey, this is when I was born. This is the current law. This is my required beginning date.
Well, and you just hit on something really important. I was just meeting with somebody the other day. They're 69, and they were anticipating that they had to start taking their required distributions next year.
Yeah.
And they were thankful that they could look another 3 years out before they would have to start taking, because that gave them 3 more years to do Roth conversions.
Right.
Which we can talk about later.
Yes.
So for now, you know, we understand what our required beginning date is. We understand it's based on the calculation of all those retirement accounts added together.
Yeah.
And now what's also interesting about that, there are very few people that actually understand or know this as a consumer.
Yeah.
Just because you have maybe multiple IRAs or multiple different retirement accounts does not mean you have to take that distribution from each of those.
Right.
You could take the total required distribution from like all of the balances and just choose to take the distribution from one of those accounts.
Yeah.
IRS doesn't care as long as it meets what the total is supposed to be.
But again, talk with your financial planner. There are caveats to that.
Yes.
If you have an inherited IRA or something like that,
Another can of worms.
it's another can of worms. So again, don't ever assume there, but be excited and know that you've got your arms around a good plan. You could choose where it could be the most advantageous to take this out. And Nick, again, not to put too fine a point on it or to hit the nail too many times on the head, this is because we were allowed to, during our years of accumulation, build that up tax deferred.
Yeah.
This money did not get taxed like the money that came to us through our salary, and we now owe that debt. It was basically deferred to this moment, and the the clock has run out, and it is time to pay on that agreement.
Yeah, correct. Now, when we think about paying, as an example, we have to also start thinking about, how is this taxed?
Correct.
Right. So a lot of people who are aware of required minimum distributions, they might not know how the distributions that come out are taxed. So that income that comes out is treated as ordinary income tax. So it's taxed, it's stacked on top of your other income. So it's taxed at your higher rates.
Say it louder for the people in the back. It's a distribution that comes out and is income.
Yes.
And is taxed as ordinary income.
Ordinary income.
It's not wages,
At
but
your highest tax rates.
it is your highest tax rates as ordinary income.
And we're not going to spend a lot of time on mistakes, but one big mistake, 5-star tip, don't do this.
Yeah.
It's disallowed. A lot of people will try to take the required distribution and put it into a Roth IRA
absolutely not.
or into another retirement account. Can't do that.
No.
A required distribution, it can be reinvested into a non-qualified traditional brokerage account, but not back into another retirement account.
Yeah. Into that non-qualified account where we're going to get a 1099, where we're taxed on our interest and dividends.
Yeah.
We got to benefit the market, right, Nick? We got to either go out and spend it or we got to save it in one of those 1099 vehicles.
Yeah.
Before the government shuts us down, let's keep moving.
So, here's where I'd like to land this today. Look, if you are facing required minimum distributions, it is a super rare thing I see.
Yeah.
Like, people don't have this, and they should. If you are between 60 and 67 years old, you should be developing this now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should have a required minimum distribution strategy.
Mm-hmm.
You should know how you're going to control and manipulate your required minimum distributions. You want to be able to control your taxation through things like implementing charitable gifting strategies, donations, etc. There's a lot of things you can do, Aaron, including Roth conversions, to minimize your future required minimum distributions. A lot of people just don't know they have options.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going to tell our audience today, many of you have options.
Yeah.
Not everybody, certainly, but a lot of people have options. If you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
And so seek the wise counsel, talk to your CPA, talk to your financial professional, but put together a required minimum distribution strategy. And a lot of the people we work with, Aaron, they might want or need a distribution every now and then to take the trip. They might, or to make a donation or to give to a loved one. Like, there's different things that they do, right? Yeah. That they might need it for. But a lot of our clients, they don't necessarily need it for their day-to-day or month-to-month living.
Right. And that's what we're talking about. This is money for retirement. And when you're retired, it's what the money's for. But we don't want you to lose control.
Right. You don't want to lose control, and you don't want to overpay your taxes.
Exactly.
So if we don't want to overpay our taxes, then what can you legally do to reduce the taxes or reduce your RMDs?
Right.
And if you have a plan in place and you work the plan, you might find yourself in a better tax situation.
Right. And we don't know what future tax brackets are going to be. And the thing about it is RMDs are not static. It's a factor which becomes a percentage, a ratio. So if, like last year, we had a good year in the market, I used to love at the arcade the quarter pushers, and you put the quarters in and you're trying to move things down and it shoves things off the shelf. We had a lot of clients that they got really excited about. We had expected a volatile year where we didn't know where we would end up at the end, but they ended up very positively.
Yeah.
Which inversely has caused higher RMDs
100%.
that have had to come out in 2025. And they're feeling pushed into forced taxation and some pushed into higher tax brackets.
Great point. So I think there's two things to touch on there. Like that's gold, Aaron. Number one, as your balances grow, your RMD is probably growing with it.
Yes.
Okay, for two reasons. Balances are calculated December 31st at the end of the year for the following year's required distribution.
Right.
So if you have great year in the market and it exceeds what you took out for that year's required distribution, that alone is going to increase your required distribution for the next year.
Yeah.
The second thing that people don't take into consideration is that factor, that age-based factor, that mortality table, it increases every single year.
Yeah.
So you got to take out a little higher percentage, a little higher percentage, a little higher percentage. Every single year, you've got to take out a little higher percentage. So if you have account balances growing, you have higher percentages you have to take out, you could very legitimately push yourself into higher future tax rates.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big deal, and it's one of the reasons that we bang that Roth drum, because money that is converted out of the IRA and put into the Roth is no longer considered. That amount can grow as much as you want to. It's not going to be a factor of future RMDs.
Can we come back to the Roth drum real quick?
Beat it.
One of my favorite drums is a steel drum. All right. So anyway, that being said, Aaron,
take the trip.
I do hope that this was a helpful episode for our audience, because this is there's a lot of misinformation out there about required distribution. Oh,
Yep.
Aaron, I'm not even kidding. I've got to tell this one story.
Yeah.
Had a client, their CPA was in another state, okay, which, doesn't really matter for required distributions because it's federal, it's not state-based.
Sure.
But this gentleman, incredibly smart. He was very advanced degrees smart.
Yeah.
Okay. And he was freaking out because he had accumulated well over $1 million in his 401k.
Yeah.
He's retiring within the next 2 or 3 years, but in that particular year, he turned 70.
Yeah.
His CPA told him that he now had to take a required distribution. And this is before age 73 was the age. It was back when it was 70 and a half.
All right.
And the CPA told this client he was going to have to liquidate his whole IRA, his whole 401k that year. So we had about $1.5 million in that retirement account. The CPA said, you've got to cash it out this year. He's freaking out. And that CPA said, I don't know what to tell you, but I know these folks have helped coach and, advise other clients. So send them our way. We started talking through it, and we helped bring up the understanding. So many times in our tax, legal, and financial worlds, there's some great professionals that might not also fully understand the rules. So getting a second opinion, I think, is a smart move.
Yeah.
In this particular gentleman's case, it saved him hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxes.
Right. And coming outside of what is still an incredible envelope.
Yes.
Yes. Here's what I will say, Nick. I know that when we're going to speak to the different professionals, it can be daunting as a conversation. So one of the things that we did was we prepped a one sheet. Do you want to kind of talk to the clients about what they look at that, if they want to get one of those from us, how they could use that effectively?
Yeah, so for our audience today, we have put together a one-page worksheet, and it is just a very, very simple, very basic worksheet. You can fill in the blank, and it might help prepare you to have better conversations with your CPAs and your financial professionals to start thinking about what kind of required minimum distribution strategy you could put in place for yourself.
Hey, if you want that resource in your inbox, you're going to email us at connect@yourretirementcoach.com. Request the RMD CPA worksheet. Listen, we had a great conversation today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe to the podcast, share it when it's appropriate. Thank you for watching. Stay coachable.
Like that.
But tighten it up.
Tighten it up.
Yep. Yep.
I didn't like the very last line.
I didn't like your face. Are we just saying things we don't like?
Let me show you.
What was the All right, the distributions are required, so the information. Why am I looking at you? They're not.
I don't know.
Yeah, phrase it. Nick, is this all right?
Here. Let's go, Aaron.
Yeah, here we go.
Come on.
Welcome to Coffee with Your Retirement Coach while Nick fiddles with his phone.
It's not a phone, it's a microphone.
That's a big one. I think that's a macrophone. We hope you enjoyed today's show, but you may have questions for our coaches, and they can be emailed at connect@yourretirementcoach.com. If you know someone that needs to hear this episode, we encourage you to share it. As a reminder, the content of this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as advice. On behalf of our coaches, we want to thank you for listening and for being coachable.
Yeoman's Consulting Group, a registered investment advisor YouTube channel based in Marietta, Georgia. We strive to provide comprehensive wealth management services for every stage of the journey. This platform is solely for informational purposes and is not offering advisory services or sales of securities. Investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. Comments by viewers or recognitions are no guarantee of future investment outcomes and do not ensure that a viewer will experience a higher level of performance or results. Public comments posted on this site are not selected, amended, deleted, or sorted in any way. If applicable, certain editing of personal, identifiable information and misinformation may be deleted. The opinions expressed herein are as of the date of publication and are subject to revision due to changes in the market or economic conditions and may not necessarily come to pass.